The life cycle of a darkling beetle. All darkling beetles begin as mealworms. Well, you might wonder, what are mealworms? Well, here's a video about what mealworms are and what's going to be happening over the next few weeks. All right, it is time to get started. First, find the cup with your number on it. Open it up. Next, we're going to fill up those cups with bran. This bran is actually going to help feed the mealworm over the next few weeks. Mrs. Kearns will come around to help you with that. The next step is to take that paper towel and cut it into 4 equal parts. Then put 1 part of the paper towel into the bran. Here come the mealworms. Place that mealworm right on top of the paper towel. And finally, we'll add an apple. The apple will provide water and nourishment to your mealworm. Finally, cover that cup tightly. You want that lid to be snug so that the mealworm cannot escape. Every time we take out and observe our mealworms, you're going to be making an entry into your journal. Today is our first journal entry. So open up your booklet to the first page and write down entry 1, January 17th, 2018. I want you to write a few sentences about what we did today. I also want you to include a diagram of that cup. Be sure to include the different parts, the bran, the mealworm, the apple, and that paper towel. All right, today we're actually going to take that mealworm out and make some observations. So take that mealworm, put him on the napkin in front of you, and watch him for a little while. Then I want you to answer these questions in your journal. I would like you to turn the page of your journal and write down entry 2, 1/19/18, today's date. And these are the questions I want you to think about. How long is the body of your mealworm? Today I want you to think about what this mealworm looks like. So let's start with its length. Take a ruler and measure it in centimeters. I know they're wiggly and active, just do your best. Then I want you to think about its color. Please note that the color could change over time, especially if your mealworm molts or sheds its skin. Next, when you look at the body of your mealworm, you're going to see these little divisions on its body. These are called segments. I'd like you to count those up and see how many you have on your mealworm. You will find that you'll be getting more segments as your mealworm gets bigger. And finally, does that mealworm have legs? If so, how many do you see? Now we're going to examine the life cycle of the beetle. This is a timeline of how your mealworm grows into a darkling beetle. Notice that there are 4 stages to this life cycle. It starts off as an egg and quickly moves into the larva stage. That's where we are right now. This is where your mealworm is. Your mealworm will live this way for about 6 to 12 weeks. Then it will change into a pupa. This is similar to when a caterpillar starts to create a cocoon to become a butterfly. The pupa stage is just about, it could last 1 up to 3 weeks. And then finally, the darkling beetle is hatched into an adult. This whole cycle takes about 21 weeks. Let's take a few minutes and check out this website about the beetle's life cycle. All right, I want you to find a partner and grab a Chromebook. Type in the website you see on the smartboard. This site is interactive and it actually is going to explain a little bit more about the life cycle of insects in general. Soon, many of you will be finding that your mealworms are turning into pupas. This is the third stage of the life cycle of the Darkling beetle. Let's talk about this life cycle again, and then I want you to copy this diagram into your journal. Today I'd like you to weigh your mealworm or pupa on this special scale I have that is able to measure the weight of very light objects. While you're waiting your turn to weigh your mealworm, I want you to place a small piece of white paper and a small piece of black paper next to each other on your desk. Put your mealworm between both sheets. Observe what occurs. Does your mealworm move towards the light paper? Does it move towards the dark paper? Or does it really have no preference one way or the other? Make your observations in your journal. And finally, I also want you to write down any other changes or differences that you see in your mealworm. Are there more segments? Is it changing colors? Does it seem to be moving more? Does it seem to be moving less? Write down any of your observations in your journal. Some of you are finding that your mealworms have finally become pupas. I want you to write down how many weeks it took for your mealworm to change into a pupa, and then using the chart at the front of the classroom, calculate how old you think your mealworm was. For the rest of us, I want you to observe how your mealworm moves around objects today. So I want you to take 3 test objects and put them on your desk and make a chart in your journal. I want you to write each object on the left side. I will show you how to do this on the next slide. Then I want you to place an object near your mealworm. How does your mealworm react? Does he do anything? Write down what you see him doing, your observations, on the right side of the chart, and then continue with the other objects you selected. If you do have a pupa, then just work on this project with your neighbor or someone else who has a mealworm. This slide shows you how to set up your chart. On the left side, write down the objects that you have chosen, and on the right side, you will write down what your mealworm does when it comes close to this object.